Good evening, and thank you for joining me on this discussion on women during the American Revolution. In our discussion, we will be looking at three women who are different, very different in economic status, location, and their contributions to the American Revolution. The first story we're going to look at is that of Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross is said it has a claim to be the first creator of the American flag. She said that she was commissioned by George Washington to create the flag. Her story is backed up by her grandson's attempt, William Cranbrook, to prove, in fact, that his grandmother did create the first flag. He secured affidavits from relative members of his family to back up his claim. Historians have mostly debunked his claim, and they're showing that there's very little evidence to back that up. And according to court's guidelines, historians must be objective and honest in their investigations. The sworn affidavits by family members prove that another family member was the first to do something. We have to look at more than just William Cranbrook's own attempt to prove his grandmother's story. What do we know about Betsy Ross? That she was a Quaker and that Quakers don't lie. Does that help cement her story? Or the fact that there are others that have that claim as well to creating the first American flag. The second story we're going to look at tonight is that of Mammy Kate. Mammy Kate was a slave in Georgia to the future governor, Stephen Hurd. Stephen Hurd was a participant in the American Revolution and was taken prisoner at Fort Cornwallis. Mammy Kate, being a dedicated slave to her master, took a horse and basically traveled to the prison, to the camp, and claimed to want to wash his linens. And at the same time, she was sneaking him food as well. But in establishing her routine with the British soldiers, she was able to sneak Stephen out of the campsite on a basket on top of her head. The story of Mammy Kate's is also the story of her rescue is just almost as famous as her story of how she was built. She herself claimed that her grandfather was a king in Africa and that had direct African descent, and that she was very built, very tall, very strong, and that she was able to hold Stephen Hurd above her head in a basket. She and Stephen Hurd escaped the camp, and upon their arrival back, Stephen Hurd promised her freedom and granted her freedom along with an acre of land and a house. What's more interesting about her story is that she ceded over her 9 children to the Hurd family on her deathbed. If we look at Susan Casey's Women Heroes of the American Revolution, 20 Stories of Espionage, Sabotage, Defiance, and Rescue, we will see that her story, like these other 20 women's stories, highlight a very issue in American history, is that when it comes to women history and what women did, they're all kind of compact. It's just like the movie critic that a woman cannot stand alone on the screen. The most successful movies that have women are like a big group of them, like Bridesmaids or Girls Trip. That in history, we have to lump these women together so that we see their significance as a whole, but not individually. The last woman that we're going to go over is Abigail Adams. We know her, of course, as the wife of our second president, John Adams. And of course, I keep saying of course, but we know her also for her most famous quote, remember the ladies, in one of her letters to her husband. What other evidence do we have on her stance on American women's liberties and freedom? Well, we have the letters to her husband, but also the letters to her sister. Her letters highlight her evolved stance on American women and what liberties we women should be gifted with. We're not gifted with, should be granted. We can see this in one of her letters. She says, "I would never consent to have our sex considered in an inferior important light. Let each planet shine in their own orbit. God and nature designed it so. If man is Lord, woman is God, Lordess, This is what I contend for. And if a woman does not hold the reins of government, I see no reason for her not judging how they are conducted.